Pops. My father was a handsome man with thick black hair, a strong jawline, and arresting blue eyes. I always thought he looked like a cross between Christopher Reeve as Superman and a young Elvis. He was from a relaxed town in Texas. With a boyish spirit, he uncovered life's beauty through hard work, honesty, wisdom, and conduct. He always treated others with respect and dignity. He took notable care of himself for most of his life, working out and biking at fashionable health clubs 6 days a week, probably for the babes. Looking at his face often felt like looking in the mirror, and people frequently asked if we were siblings. In many ways, I am my father's daughter. Dad was a borderline genius. He was a brilliant and gifted United States Air Force Academy graduate with a master's degree in electrical engineering and 2 bachelor's degrees of different sciences. He had his own peculiar idea of slapstick humor and was an eccentric kind of genius, as if there were any other type. He was certainly unique, the only peculiar man I knew who could make a vacuum blow out instead of sucking in, or who could fix a car radio with a butcher knife while living on the military post. The huge knife was totally visible, and my poor mother was surrounded by military police. Seeing the knife, they claimed she had a weapon in her car one sunny afternoon after Dad's choice of objects. Like a few highly intelligent people, Dad lacked some social and communicative skills. He was certainly multifaceted and could be challenging to understand, but he was absolutely selfless. His brilliant mind had him grappling with even the most unassuming of friendships and simple interactions. Dad toiled with creating and tending to intricate relationships, including the connection between him and me. Everyone who knew Dad loved receiving his quick, tight hugs, but it could be difficult to get to know him. He was self-motivated and humorously dynamic. His highly productive mind led him towards the wild promises of computer programming and software design. He was one of the originators of the original COBOL business software. Apparently born for life in the big city, he worked for more than 20 years at the largest bank in downtown Dallas. Dad loved his work and welcomed each day eagerly. Every morning he woke up and blared emotion-evoking classical music. I still cannot hear Wilhelm Richard Wagner's Flight of the Valkyries and Maurice Ravel's Bolero without smiling, remembering how, at 17, I didn't think it was very cool. Dad worked downtown for decades, but he greeted every sunrise with a fresh anticipation. Whistling to the music, he primed and prepped himself as if he were going to observe the harried city for the first time. He was always dressed in well-fitted, sharp-looking suits. I thought he looked a little like James Bond in a dress suit. Each was cut to precision, bold across the shoulders and lined at the waist, harmonizing into a perfect inverted triangle on his back. He'd select shoes from among 5 to 6 pairs of similar Alden wingtips, finishing his morning routine with a splash of cut-rate Old Spice cologne, because in his opinion, it was the best. With the newer commercials, I agree. Talk about marching to the beat of your own drummer. Dad would purr along to the deafening roars of downtown as if it was all harmoniously melodic to him. He delighted in riding the posh city buses, even though he certainly had disposable income and a Cadillac at home. He gambled to the deafening traffic, esteemed the mobs of scrambling commuters, and seemed to hum along to the jackhammers and droning drills that repaired the streets. He might unexplainably, and embarrassingly, start chanting and singing songs about the big city as he skipped along the bustling pedestrian walkways. Bustling with activity and congested with herds of people, Dad loved the city's opportunity. Approbation flickered in his eyes as he animatedly gaped about the architectural design of the soaring buildings and elaborately ornate skyscrapers. Dallas pumped through Dad's veins like lifeblood. "Can you smell the possibility, Amber?" He'd ask me enthusiastically. Yeah, Dad." But all I sniffed was musty smog, burnt oil, and garbage. Most folks would be thrown into a panic trying to cross the street in downtown Dallas. Skirting all the taxis, buses, trucks, and cars was like living through a scene from Apocalypse Now, but I kept that sentiment to myself. It was routine for Dad to work overtime, and then some. He'd pick me up late from daycare, and we'd scarf down some fast food. Long John Silver's was one of his favorites. I would color and illustrate hundreds of hand turkeys every night on the reams of old computer paper. Curled up under his desk while he diligently worked well into these nights. "Babies are such a great way to start people," he'd gleam every time an infant was near. Any appearance of child neglect or abuse would reduce my father to tears in an instant. He would literally call out, "Mercy!" Flustered, he would gulp, "I can't handle this," hurriedly fumbling to change the station in revulsion. Dad dedicated his life to others, especially young people. He found joy in volunteering more than half of his life to charitable organizations, such as Junior Achievement. Volunteering for decades, Dad offered hundreds, if not thousands, of teenagers the opportunity to build up confidence in business. Because of his passionate commitment to children, he had his own office at JA's Central Texas location. As magnificent as he was with young people, a moderate tension existed between the two of us during my teenage years for reasons I ruefully shared with him later in life. Dad unquestionably wasn't a knuckle-dragging type of guy. He relished in the best of everything. I don't mean he was rich or ritzy. He appreciated seeing, hearing, and tasting the excellence of the very finest talents that people could produce. From the unsurpassed football player to the ultimate symph-like ballerina. My father delighted in human talent, establishing a lifelong affair with the arts. He always took time to stop and smell the roses, literally. When Dad changed homes or apartments, he unfailingly planted lush crimson roses before unpacking a single box. He'd move the divans, boxes, and bags, and then vanish. I didn't need to ask or worry about where he was. I knew he'd dashed off to Home Depot. He would soon return with bags of peat moss, nutrient-rich soil, and various rose bushes. To a snotty teenager, this all looked like work. He hollered out for my help, which I was reluctant to give, but he didn't really need it. He enthusiastically tried to share his passion with me by teaching me how to care for the beautiful, delicate flowers he loved. Dad may have appeared to have a placid or peculiar demeanor, but more accurately, he felt deeply and loved hard.